when I was approached by Penn to join one of the advisory boards at Penn, I actually specifically requested nursing because I thought some of the most innovative stuff in the healthcare system was actually occurring in the nursing school.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angela Rosa Di Donato.
And I'm Marian Leary.
And you're listening to Amplify Nursing, a Penn Nursing podcast supported by the Panola Fund for Innovation in Nursing.
Amplify Nursing features nurses who are leading the way in science, policy, and innovation.
Our guests defy stereotypes, define practice, and disrupt convention.
We highlight the breadth and depth of nursing influence on society by amplifying nurses who are pushing boundaries and breaking down barriers to build a new paradigm.
Today on Amplify Nursing, we talk with Randi and John Rydzewski. Randi is currently a principal consultant with Fidelum Health and has more than 30 years' experience in healthcare in a variety of executive and management consultant roles. John is a private investor who has served as an advisor and director to healthcare companies, healthcare policy, and educational organizations. Together, they serve on the board of directors at Penn Nursing and the board's Innovation Committee. Randi and John talk with us about how their unique backgrounds brought them to Penn Nursing Innovation, their work on the Innovation Committee of the Board of Advisors, and how Penn Nursing facilitates collaborative innovation projects between nurses and experts in other fields, and how we can help others realize the importance of nurse-led innovation in improving healthcare.
So, Randi, John, thank you so much for joining us on the Amplify Nursing podcast. We are really excited to talk with you today.
Great. Thank you so much. We're happy to be here.
Likewise.
So, Randi, why don't you start us off? I'd love to know a little bit about your background. Neither of you are nurses, but you're both on our Penn Nursing Board of Advisors on the Innovation Subcommittee, which is the most fun subcommittee of all subcommittees. So I'd love to understand, your background, how you got into healthcare, and why you're interested in nursing innovation specifically. And then John, we'll have you jump in as well afterwards.
Great.
Sure.
Thank you so much. So I've been, part of the Penn community for a long time. I went to undergrad and then I got my MBA also at Penn. My father was a Penn grad. That's how I got excited and interested to go to Penn in the first place. In particular, my mother was a nurse practitioner back right when nurse practitioners, they started, granting those degrees in the early 70s. So when I was young, and my father was a business person. So it just always was sort of an intersection of healthcare and business in my house. And I, as a Penn undergrad, thought I would maybe go to medical school and decided later on, I'll do hospital administration, certainly not knowing, had any idea what that even was. But I took a lot of the Wharton healthcare courses and really loved healthcare economics, the incentives behind certain models of healthcare, and I was completely hooked. And that's really how I started. But being part of Penn Nursing is so incredible. It's such a important and wonderful school, and educating nursing leaders is a wonderful thing that the students are so incredibly impressive. I've loved being on the board and always really loved that leading edge of healthcare. And that was why when the opportunity to be on the Innovation Committee came along, I jumped at it because I think that's really always where I've had an interest in my career.
So I'll ask you more about your role in the Innovation Committee in a little bit, but I want to step back to something that you said that I think is really interesting. And this is going to play into 1970s gender stereotypes and gender norm roles. But it's interesting that your mom was a nurse, your dad was in business, and you followed in your dad's footsteps. What was that like? Because in the 70s, you wouldn't think that would be the case. Generally, you would think, if you're a female of a certain age, you would follow in your mother's footsteps as a nurse.
Yeah, she was really a very liberated, Mary Tyler Moore kind of woman. And, especially growing up at that time period, everybody's mom was home after school, not my mom, but, she always had a career. She moved to Boston as a single woman, and that wasn't done in the 60s. That was, before she met my father. So she always was such a great role model that way. And my father was really a very forward-thinking feminist, and, really thought, that she like hung the moon. So I don't know, I was always sort of promoted to be that kind of a person, and it could have gone either way, right? I could have decided to stay and go to medical school because my mother had chosen being a provider. But I don't know, I got very interested in how it all works in terms of the economics and the incentives. And that's really where I headed after that.
No, I think that's great. And your dad thinking your mom hangs the moon, that kills me. It's so sweet.
Yes.
So John, let's have you come in here and again, introduce yourself, your background, and what you're working on right now.
Sure, I'm happy to. My name is John Rydzewski. I grew up in Missouri and heard about Penn and Wharton in particular from my high school teacher, and she said, "This is the school for you." And fortunately, I got in early admission. I really had no particular interest in healthcare. I really just wanted to be a businessman. And I migrated to investment banking in New York, ultimately, and because my first assignment, I was put on a healthcare project. I became over time sort of a healthcare guy within my investment bank, and then subsequently moved to different investment banks, and branched out occasionally, started healthcare companies, invested in pharmaceutical royalties, and along the way got interested in health policy because I saw that there's so many inefficiencies in the healthcare system, both in the pharma side, but even more so on the healthcare services side. And I became reacquainted with Penn actually through the Rand Corporation. I'm on the advisory board for the healthcare group at the Rand Corporation, have been for quite a while. And I met in that course of that a board member who was a professor at the School of Nursing at Penn, Mary Naylor. And Mary developed something called the transitional care model. And I became absolutely intrigued and a real devotee of Professor Naylor's work, because what she did in her research was she came up with models that could significantly reduce rehospitalization of people when they leave the hospital, and could significantly save the system money. And her work really wasn't as widely adopted as it needed to be and should be. And so I became very interested in how to basically take research that could span 5, 10, 15 years and get it out into the system where it could do the most good. And so I've worked with Mary over the years. She's now an advisor to corporations, in care coordination. When I was approached by Penn to join one of the advisory boards at Penn, I actually specifically requested nursing because I thought some of the most innovative stuff in the healthcare system was actually occurring in the nursing school. And so that began my role as a member of the board of advisors of the School of Nursing.
I love that. I love that you knew some of the most innovative stuff was coming out of nursing. I wish more people understood that. But I think at Penn Nursing, that's what we're leading the charge on, thanks to our incredible board of advisors. And so, Randy, it's a good segue into your role on the board of advisors. Can you talk about that and talk about what the board of advisors innovation subcommittee does?
So we have such an incredible board overall, and the innovation subcommittee is comprised of people who are some of the most dedicated, brilliant, accomplished, and talk about thinking that something hung the moon. They all believe nursing hung the moon, and could not be more true. Certainly promoting nursing and understanding how cutting edge nurse leaders is such an important goal. That the board is really incredible. I'm newish to the committee, and I think what what transpired before I got there, because I was on the board, to see, John and Rich Pinola and Seth Gins and the folks who started that committee really push and, create your role, Marion, and be lucky enough to have you, push it forward. And certainly Terry Richmond, who is just an incredible person and scholar, and one of the most practical people as well, really an amazing individual to, help. And you see, when you see, Dean Toney's strategic priorities, innovation is in each pillar of that. It's not just on the side, let's also do innovation. It's in every pillar of what the School of Nursing is focusing on in terms of research, in terms of education, in terms of, being out there, in terms of publications and fundraising and all of that. It's in every aspect of innovation. It's really permeated the culture. And I think it attracts incredible students and attracts incredible faculty as well.
So yeah, let's talk about that for a second. And John, maybe you can jump in here. Why at a School of Nursing do we need to focus so heavily on innovation? Why should nurses be the ones leading in that space in healthcare?
Well, I guess my impression is that they are the closest to the delivery of the care. I mean, doctors operate, doctors, read charts, but nurses are at the bedside, and they see at the ground level how the system works, how it functions or doesn't function, and the gaps in where the gaps exist, that where recommended protocols of care aren't followed, or people are falling through the cracks. They're the first ones to see it. They're the most observant of it, and they're oftentimes the most compassionate trying to fix it. That's sort of my bottom line of how I view nurses. I mean, I have like 3 members of my immediate family have been nurses, and I see how they react to situations, and they're sort of, the best of them are really take charge people who want to fix things and make things right.
Let's talk about then the ways that we can help nurses to take their ideas and begin to scale those out. So we have an innovation accelerator program at Penn Nursing where we provide students, faculty, and clinicians funding, mentorship, and education. And this has been supported by, heavily supported by members of the innovation subcommittee. So thank you to all of them for that support. But it's hard what I've seen over the past 4 years leading this innovation accelerator is that it's really difficult for nurses to juggle their clinical schedules, juggle their personal responsibilities, family responsibilities. A lot of the nurses in the accelerator program are also in school, and then they're trying to create a startup company or scale up an innovation. And John, you've been involved in the work that we're doing in the accelerator, and you've seen this firsthand. I wonder if we can talk about what some of the barriers are for nurses in healthcare and some of the potential ways that we could help nurses, be able to be more successful in these endeavors.
Sure. I mean, I think part of the problem is that if you look at the impact of nurses in proprietary organizations, for-profit corporations, they oftentimes are the people who see where the gaps are and what potential solutions are, but they don't necessarily have the connection or the connectivity to some of the business folks who are controlling the dollars. Similarly, in our innovation and our accelerator, we have great ideas coming up from our participants from the nursing school, but they really need to be paired up and teamed up with some of the, if you will, the business folks who can help actualize and create the business plan. I think to the extent we can do more of that, I think we'll be more successful. Let me give you another example. So in the case of the IDOS initiative, which is an effort by the university and particularly out of the School of Nursing to advance LGBTQ health. Our Dean Tony Villarreal, recognized the need to pair the research that occurs in LGBTQ issues and concerns with some of the more innovative solutions that are occurring in industry. Well, IDOS will be an attempt to take our research, our nursing students and students across the university to engage with venture capitalists who are in fact trying to advance innovations in healthcare delivery, healthcare technologies.
Yeah, that's it's incredible, and it's really, I think, I haven't heard of many other programs like that. So, I mean, I think that's the great work that you and the folks at IDOS are doing. Randi, I'd love to get your thoughts on some of this as well, because you were in healthcare administration, and would love to know what you think about some of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, John pointed out that, and really a shorthand even for innovation is finding an unmet need and coming up with a solution for it, right? Whether it's a technology, whether it's a process, whether it's a product. And I do think, exactly as you said, there's wonderful ideas and they go through the accelerator. But I think, especially now in healthcare, you really need to make a business case. You need to be able to show return on investment to anyone who's going to be a decision maker, be it a CEO of a health system or, somebody in a startup or an investor, venture folks. And, I think that's where the board, I think, has been super valuable to step up and help these students who have innovations to make those pairings with the connections that they have out in the community, in the business world that they come from. And I think that's really the beauty of how the board works so nicely to support innovation.
Yeah, I will say to anybody listening, if you're at a university institution and you have a board of advisors, but you don't have an innovation subcommittee, you should definitely think about doing that. Our innovation subcommittee members have been just fundamentally critical to the growth and success of the innovation program we have at Penn Nursing. And I really don't think that we would have been able to do anywhere close to what we've done without all of your continued help and support. So I can't personally thank you all enough for the support that you constantly give me, us, our students and faculty in these areas of innovation and entrepreneurship. So I guess here's a question. Neither of you are nurses, but you're both heavily invested in nurses leading in innovation. How do we get others outside of nursing, so in business, in engineering, in design, in other sectors, other fields, to understand the power of nurses in this space? Because I think there's the default that physicians are doing these things, but it's not the default that nurses are doing these things and should be doing these things. So how do we get the word out? How would you communicate with others in your field or other similar fields about nurses and the importance of using nurses in this way?
I could give you one quick example. So, for example, in the case of this of the IDOS initiative, the School of Nursing, Penn is committing $5 million of funding to support the introduction of Penn Nursing and other Penn students involved, to engage them directly in venture capital companies and venture capital efforts to promote LGBTQ health. Well, if you want to see what nurses can contribute, drop them into some of these companies as advisors or in some capacity as consultants, and you'll see their value add very quickly. You'll see it by example.
Randi, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, in many of the places that I've worked in consulting, I also worked for a company that helped put payment innovation models in place, and also innovating in the chronically ill care space, similar to the Mary Naylor example that John gave. The most critical people to the success of those innovations and those business ideas, we're nurses, because if you don't make that connection between, what's possible and what's what you're able to actually implement and how it will be implemented. I mean, that is such a critical piece of knowledge that, a clinician is often, and particularly nurses are often the ones to make those connections.
All right, then. Well, I want to thank you both again for not only being on the podcast, but, all the time and advice that you give to us and our students and faculty in the innovation space. And I personally look forward to working with you in the coming years and advancing the work that we're doing at Penn Nursing and in the field of nursing in general around innovation. So thank you both for talking with me. It was really a great time.
Thank you.
Marian.
Hello, Angela.
Hey, Marian, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm amazing.
Cool. How great was that interview with Randi and John?
It was fantastic. I think we're so lucky to have people with such great experience on our advisory boards to show us the things that we might be missing.
Yeah, I can't really say it enough, and I mentioned it in the episode, but the Penn Nursing Innovation Program, I personally believe, would not be what it is today if we did not have the support, mentorship, and guidance of our Innovation Advisory Board. They really go above and beyond for us whenever we need them. And yeah, exactly like you said, like having that diversity of experience and skill sets outside of what we potentially have with our lens as nurses has really been one of the foundations for the successes that we've had over the past 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, I think that having that outside influence and allowing all of that other experience to mix with our nursing experience and our nursing lens is what makes it a really, really rich experience. And I think there are things that we wouldn't necessarily do if we didn't have that input and also that support, right? Because we come up with ideas and we're like, I don't know, how's this going to land? And when you have people from the outside saying, oh no, that's a really interesting idea, or, vice versa, this is something that's not going to hit well with other people, or, we don't know that it's going to be really successful. That's such a great perspective to have.
Right. And they get it. Like they get that nurses should be leading in this space, and they get that nurses are the ones who, really do bring this unique lens to innovation and entrepreneurship. And they really want nurses and Penn Nursing nurses to be successful. And it's just been an incredible opportunity for me personally to get to work with our board and just watch how their influence has helped us grow over all these years.
Amplify Nursing is hosted by Dr. Angela Rosa DiDonato and Marian Leary and produced by the University of Pennsylvania School of Nursing, with special thanks to Jonathan Zhu for his assistance. Music for the podcast was created by Harper Leary. The podcast is made possible by the Krista and Rich Pinola Fund for Innovation in Nursing.
Follow us on Twitter at Penn Nursing. Until next time, keep pushing over, under, around, and through. We want to thank you for listening to the Amplify Nursing podcast and remind you to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you do your podcast listening. And if you can, please do us a solid and rate and review us as well. It will go a long way in amplifying our episodes.